Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending the Street Transportation Department's virtual public meeting about 3rd Avenue from Indian School to Camelback Road and the proposed parking, driving, and bike lane changes. If you'd like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, we do have a Spanish translation line. Mario Barajas will be our translator tonight. Mario, please introduce the information in Spanish.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mario Barajas, and I will be serving as the Spanish interpreter, as Vivian mentioned. I'm now going to introduce myself to Spanish speakers. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mario Barajas. Voy a estar sirviendo como el intérprete de español. Como pueden ver ahí, están las instrucciones para conectarse en la línea de español si gustan conectarse con el intérprete para escuchar esta reunión en español. Desde sus teléfonos pueden marcar el número anotado ahí en sus pantallas, el número 602-534-1000. Luego marque el número de la reunión que viene siendo 40392 y luego oprime el número de signos, el número pound. Bien, y ahí es donde van a estar escuchando al intérprete. Gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. My name is Vivian Padilla, and I am a Public Information Officer with the City of Phoenix Street Transportation Department, and I am your host for tonight's meeting. On your screen, you will see a list of project members, so please go ahead and introduce yourself as well as your relationship to the project, starting with Keeney.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Keeney Knudsen. I'm the Director of Street Transportation for the City of Phoenix, and our department is responsible for the project we're talking about this evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Locke. I'm the Deputy Director for our Program and Project Delivery Group. My team will be presenting the project tonight. Hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, everyone, or sorry, good afternoon. I'm Carl Langford. I'm the Traffic Engineering Supervisor, and I oversee the signing and striping. We'd like to excuse Bruce Littleton as he couldn't make it today.
You're unmuted now. Go ahead and restart.
Oh, hi, I'm Marielle Brown. I'm the project manager, and I will be presenting the project to you this evening.
Alrighty, thank you. You will see on your screen tonight's agenda. We will begin with our project goal and some guidance. We will be hosting our first audience poll, and that's where we'll need your participation, so keep your eyes on your screen. We'll then review the project area and share information about the proposed changes. Then we'll get the community's perspective through another audience poll, and then we'll be answering questions live at the end of this meeting. For tonight's meeting, we will be answering questions from the Spanish line first, if any. Then those who asked to be called on during the registration process will be unmuted, and then those who submitted questions during the registration process will get their questions answered, and finally, questions sent via the Q&A box will be answered. The chat box is where you can submit your comments, and your comments will be shared with the project team and will play a role with the final decision. You'll now see an example screen of what your screen should look like. You can see yellow arrows pointing to red circles. Click in those areas on your own screen so that your chat box and Q&A box are now open. In a similar fashion, the polls will also pop up when we get to that stage. So take a moment to look at your screen and activate those sections on your own. And now that we've covered some basics, let's go ahead and get started with Keeney.
Again, thank you, Vivian, and thank you all for participating in this meeting this evening. Our team is very excited about this project. We've been working very closely with members of the community about conducting improvements focused on better bicycling infrastructure in the 3rd Avenue corridor. This project that we're talking about this evening is from Indian School up to Camelback, but we've also been working on improvements along the 3rd Avenue corridor to improve our bicycling facilities all the way from downtown, and we're focused on additional improvements along this stretch as well on the Phoenix Sonoran Bikeway corridor. We're really excited to have you join us we're going to try to interact and participate and get engagement from the community as best we can, no matter what way we're able to do it. And this has been a very effective tool to be able to get people's feedback and have people be able to participate in our meetings and provide their comments and suggestions. And this evening, we want to be able to share the project details with you. Our project team has done a great job in outlining some different options, and they're going to be relaying those to you. But this is really for you to be able to hear and then also provide back feedback. We want to listen and hear that information from you. There's going to be opportunities during this meeting, but even after this meeting, to be able to make sure that your voice is heard, because we do want to make sure, as we do projects here in the Street Transportation Department, that we are doing it with the community, with your support. And so I'm going to turn it over to Marielle to walk you through the details of this project. So thank you, thank you all for being here, and take it away, Marielle.
Great. Thank you, Kini, for the introduction, and thank you, Vivian. I'm Marielle Brown, the project manager for this project. So tonight we'll be talking about a proposal for improving the bike lanes on 3rd Avenue from Indian School Road to Camelback Road. And before we get into the details, we're going to start with a poll. We want to hear from you. How are you connected to this area? So a poll will pop up in the bottom right of your screen right now. Please take a few minutes, well, it's really just a few seconds, to tell us how you're connected to this project area. Do you A, live in the project area, B, use the street to commute to work, school, run errands, or access businesses, C, work at or own a business in the project area, D, use the street for recreational activities, biking, walking, running, etc., or E, none of the above, and please feel free to add what that other answer is in the comment box if you would like. So again, this poll will close out in just a few seconds, and then we'll be able to share with everyone here tonight how people are related to this project area.
And Marielle, just a little update. I do see that 12 people have not yet started answering the poll. It should have popped up on your window, and we will leave it open for a couple more seconds. We want to make sure that everybody can participate. So those 12 people who have not yet started the poll, if I can lightly encourage you to go ahead and take it, that would be great. I see that 3 people, actually 2 people, are still in progress. So we'll wait a couple more seconds and then I'll pass along the results.
Thanks. Right, and the poll will be closing out any second. So please let us know how you relate to the project area. All right, and the poll is ended, so the answers will be popping up right now. And it looks like about half of the people here tonight live in the project area. There is also a group of people that use the street for recreational activities, like walking or biking, and that's not surprising given that the street connects to the Grand Canal. And then there are also about 4 people who use the street for commuting to work, and a few other answers. So that's great to hear, and let's get into what changes we are proposing. Just as a reminder, the public engagement timeline for this process, or for this proposal, starts now. It's today, July 13th, and we're having the virtual public meeting. A survey about this proposal will launch during the public meeting. So after the virtual public meeting, you can answer the survey immediately. Please share it with your friends and neighbors. Encourage everyone that you know in the area to take the poll or to take the survey. And then once we hear from the community, we will get back to you in the fall on what that decision is. And then any changes will happen in spring or summer. And that's because over the winter, we'll be designing the project and making sure we get it right so that we can go forward with any changes in spring or summer if changes are what we decided on. This is part of the city's Complete Streets policy and approach to designing streets. since 2018, the City of Phoenix has had a complete streets policy that requires us to consider people who are walking, biking, taking transit, and driving when we design our streets. And the goal is to make sure that everyone can enjoy using our streets safely and comfortably, no matter how they're traveling. This section of 3rd Avenue is part of the Phoenix-Sonoran Bikeway. So the Phoenix-Sonoran Bikeway is one of Phoenix's longest and oldest bike routes. It goes from South Mountain Park all the way to the northern boundary of the city. And the Street Transportation Department is working on a variety of projects to improve bicycle facilities all along the Phoenix-Sonoran Bikeway. I want to highlight a few of the things we're looking at for 3rd Avenue specifically in this area. So from south of McDowell Road to about Washington Street, the 3rd and 5th Avenue projects just wrapped up. And those are projects that improve bicycling along 3rd and 5th Avenue. The section immediately north of there, from McDowell to north of Thomas Road, is in design right now, and that will be extending those improvements along 3rd and 5th Avenue. And then we recently announced that we will be reconfiguring 3rd Avenue from Thomas to Osborne to add buffers to the existing bike lanes along with vertical protection. The timeline and the type of vertical protection will be shared with the community as we figure out how to coordinate with the section south of Thomas. We have relatively recently upgraded the bike lanes on 3rd Avenue from Osborne to Indian School Road with buffers and vertical delineators. And then we also just wrapped up a pre-design study from Camelback to Missouri Avenue, looking at what kinds of bicycle and pedestrian improvements can be made to that section, which brings us to Indian School Road to Camelback. That's what we're talking about tonight, a proposal to see if there are any connections that the community is interested in, and the public outreach process is now. When we talk about bike lanes and bike infrastructure, we look at who will feel comfortable using the bike lane. So right now, the current bike lanes on 3rd Avenue, they're not continuous. So in sections, you have to share the street, share the traffic lane with people driving. And what we find is that, some people who ride bikes are comfortable doing that, and it tends to be the more assertive and the more experienced bicyclists. So that's the option A we'll be presenting tonight, no changes, keeping the street as it is. We'll also look at an option B that's designed to include more casual bike riders as well by providing a continuous bike lane. And then finally, we'll be looking at an option C that really tries to make the street as comfortable as possible for anyone who might be interested in bicycling. So let's start looking at the options. This is option A. So I will go through each option one by one. The options are broken into 2 sections, so just to make sure we can fit everything onto this one slide. So this is 3rd Avenue, Indian School Road to Grand Canal, and then we'll look at the Grand Canal section next. This is what the street looks like currently. I'm sure that you are all very familiar with the street, but I will review it briefly just to make sure we're all on the same page. So right now, from Indian School Road to about 400 feet north of Indian School Road, there are bike lanes on both sides of the street. There's one lane of traffic in each direction, and there's a left turn lane. I do want to acknowledge that the construction on the east side of the street has temporarily closed the bike lane on the east side of the street, but when that construction is complete, the bike lane will be reinstalled. North, about 400 feet north of Indian School Road to Glen Rosa Avenue, the bike lane does continue on the east side of the street, but there is not a bike lane on the west side of the street. There is on-street parking on both sides of the street. from Glen Rosa Avenue to Roma Avenue, there are bike lanes and there's no parking allowed currently. From Roma Avenue to the Grand Canal, at Roma Avenue, the bike lanes end and there are no bike lanes to the Grand Canal. From Roma Avenue to Campbell Avenue, there's space for a right turn lane and there's no parking allowed. And then from Campbell Avenue to Grand Canal, there are no bike lanes, but there is on-street parking allowed through most of that section. Then north of the Grand Canal to Mariposa Street, there's no striping on the street right now. There's parking allowed on both sides of the street, and there's one lane of traffic in each direction. And then from Mariposa Street to Camelback Road, so it's just that last block as you approach Camelback Road, there is no parking on the street, and there are stripes to show that there's a dedicated right turn lane. So that's option A, leaving the street as is. Option B is looking at connecting the bike lane. So making sure there's a continuous bike lane while preserving as much on-street parking as possible. So for that first section, that's 400 feet north of Indian School Road, we would keep it as is. There's no parking there right now. There will be bike lanes, and so we would keep it that way. From 400 feet north of Indian School Road to Glen Rosa Avenue, there is space to keep the existing on-street parking and add in a bike lane. And so we would be proposing adding the bike lane, keeping the parking as is. And then from Glen Rosa Avenue to Roma Avenue, we would keep the street the same as it is. There are currently bike lanes. There's not enough room to add parking and bike lanes. From Roma Avenue to Campbell Avenue, we would propose removing the right turn lane to create space for continuous bike lanes. And again, this section would stay no parking. And then from Campbell Avenue to the Grand Canal, we would propose removing the existing on-street parking and putting in bike lanes. Then north of the Grand Canal, there is enough room to add bike lanes from Grand Canal to Mariposa Street, but we would need to remove parking on one side of the street. So this proposal shows removing parking from the east side of the street. However, I do want to be clear that as we propose this, we really want to hear from the community. If there's interest in option B, but people are interested in restricting parking on the west side of the street instead of the east side of the street, we're very open to hearing that feedback. And then finally, that last block as you approach Camelback Road, we would have to change the striping slightly, but there is enough room to fit in bike lanes. So we would be able to add in bike lanes, keep the same number of lanes that are currently there, and there would be no parking just like there is normally. And then finally, option C. So this is the option where we're looking at buffered bike lanes. And we tried to put in buffers wherever possible and keep on-street parking if it was possible. But buffers were the top priority for this design. So for option C, we would keep the intersection, the area from Indian School Road to 400 feet north of Indian School Road the same. Because of the way the signal is configured and the width of the road, there's not an opportunity to add buffers there. From 400 feet north of Indian School Road to Glen Rosa Avenue, we can add buffers and keep parking on one side of the street. And again, just like with option B, if there's interest from the community in this option, but they would like to see, if there's a lot of strong support for restricting parking on the west side of the street and keeping it on the east side of the street, we're very open to that feedback. And then from Glen Rosa Avenue to the Grand Canal, this is the same as option B. The street's not wide enough to add buffers in this section. It's just wide enough to add bike lanes. So we would be doing the same thing where we remove the right turn lane at Campbell Avenue and then also restrict parking from Campbell Avenue to the Grand Canal. And then north of the Grand Canal for option C, we would be looking at restricting parking on both sides of the street from Grand Canal to Mariposa Street. So the entire section north of the Grand Canal, parking would need to be restricted in order to add buffers to the bike lane. And then from Mariposa Street to Camelback Road, we would be removing the dedicated right turn lane. So there would just be one lane of traffic in and one lane of traffic out. And I will be handing this over to my colleague, Carl Langford, who will explain the traffic impacts to those changes at the signal, and then also with the right turn lane removal south of the Grand Canal. But before I hand it to you, Carl, I'm going to talk about parking for a minute. All right, so this is an overview of the parking comparison. As you can see, in option A, which again is no changes, this is what's out there now, there is on-street parking on both sides of the street in some places between Indian School Road and Grand Canal. There is a small section of parking that's restricted on weekdays from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Option B would be very similar, but it restricts parking on the northern portion, well, of this section. So as you approach the Grand Canal, that last block, parking would be restricted. And then option C really restricts or would remove parking along most of the street, but we would be able to keep parking on one side of the street just near Indian School Road. And then north of the Grand Canal, the parking comparison shows that we would have, well, for option A, which again is no changes. Right now there is parking allowed on both sides of the street almost continuously from Grand Canal to Mariposa Street. Option B would restrict parking on one side of the street. And again, I want to emphasize that, you know, we're very open to community feedback if we didn't get it right on which side of the street to propose a parking restriction on. And then option C is restricting all parking north of the Grand Canal to Camelback Road. So those are the three options that we're proposing tonight. And with that, I will hand it over to Carl now to talk about traffic impacts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marielle. So as Marielle explained, we have several different options here, option A, B, and C. And so I want to talk a little bit about the traffic impacts, because people always ask, well, what's going to happen to the traffic as we do this? So first of all the options, they do maintain a one lane in each direction as the main mode of travel through there. Option B, there will be a little bit of impact to, say, movement of traffic. Campbell Avenue directly has a four-way stop, and going northbound, there is a right turn pocket there. That right turn pocket would be removed. We did an analysis of that to kind of say, hey, how does that impact the people traveling? And basically, that four-way stop works very effectively at the moment through everything, and any changes to traffic patterns and potential delay is going to be negligent, if any at all. Our analysis shows that there is no traffic impact through that. Option C will do that same right turn lane at Campbell that will be removed, but then also the right turn lane at Camelback at the signal coming up. So the picture that you can see here, the right turn only lane will go away, and it will be a single lane for both through left and right. Our traffic analysis of that does say there will be minor impacts overall, but basically the impact is what it is the cars that are turning right now, that are basically right turn on red traffic, they have to wait for the signal at times when someone's going straight or left that's going to be in front of them. So as far as the traffic signal throughout the city, it's actually going to operate very efficiently overall, but there will be a bit of delay that you will see at times in that location. And those are really the only impacts, as the main lane of traffic is all going to stay the same throughout. Mariel, if you could go to the next slide, please. So now to just kind of talk about the general impact of everything. So we've talked about option A, and again, this is basically where we're going to keep everything the exact same. There will still remain some gaps in the general bike aspect. There will be a little bit of time of day parking restrictions in this section towards the very south end of the project. Option B is where what we're doing is trying to fit a bike lane the entire way continuous throughout. To where the bike lane is an option for 24/7. Any of the on-street parking that would remain, it's going to stay 24/7 available. It will reduce the general parking on the road to be one side or the other throughout most of it, but there will not be any time of day restrictions for either the bike lane or the parking. Everything will be dedicated as bike traffic or parking area or traffic lane directly. And then option C goes a little bit further in that we add buffered bike lanes where possible to the roadway. And that buffered bike lane provides a bit more space between vehicles and bikes, adds an added level of comfort for the bike rider as well through there. It cuts down on any confusion of biking versus parking areas. There will remain a couple locations further to the south where the road's kind of a bit wider in general, where some on-street parking will remain. But most all of the on-street parking does go away in option C. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Vivian.
Alrighty, and you will see in a couple of seconds the poll popping up. And if we can just go ahead and take that. Alrighty, and we will leave this open for a little bit. So what we are asking here is what option works best for you and your community. There is option A, no changes, option B, which is connected bike lanes, reducing some on-street parking, and no time of day parking restrictions. And then we have option C, which would have buffered bike lanes when possible, and it would also offer almost no on-street parking. I see that 3 people are currently in progress of taking the poll, so go ahead and finish up your answer. I do see that about 18 people have not yet started the poll. We are going to leave this open for a couple of seconds. You should have seen the poll just pop up on your window. Again, we want to know which option that we've presented today works best for you and your community. Do you prefer option A, no changes? Option B, adding bike lanes, but reducing some on-street parking with no time of day parking restrictions? Or do you prefer option C, which would add buffered bike lanes where possible, and it would take away on-street parking, or rather there would almost be no on-street parking? I see 4 of you are still taking it. 10 people have not yet participated with the poll. We will be closing it shortly, so we would love to get your input on these proposals. I see 1 person currently struggling to finish up, so go ahead. We'll wait on you to submit your answer. We would love to see which way you're leaning towards. Alrighty, Marielle, and you should have received the poll results. I can let you know that right now at this moment, we have about 15% of the people swaying towards option B and about 65% of people swaying for option C. And option A did not receive any votes. Well, our project survey is now open. Thank you to everyone who participated in tonight's poll, but you'll have another opportunity to actually participate in our project survey. It will be closing on August 7th at 11:45 p.m. We do expect a decision to be made by this fall, and the project construction should begin about in the spring or summertime of next year. You can provide your input, your opinions, and your questions in today's meeting by submitting questions in the Q&A box and submitting comments in the chat box. The survey again is available in both English and Spanish on the project website. That's Phoenix.gov/streets/3rd Ave IC. You can also reach the project manager by emailing bike@Phoenix.gov. And if you'd like to submit a question for the team to answer, go ahead and type it in the Q&A box now. Friendly reminder, please submit your comments using the chat box. We will be sharing your comments with the project team. For those of you who pre-registered to be called on, we do ask that you limit your questions to 2 minutes when speaking. We do have a timer at the bottom of the next slide that will pop up that will also alert you of your speaking time. So let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A section of tonight's meeting. Mario, are there any Spanish language line questions?
As of yet, no, there is not.
Okay, if there are any, please interrupt us and let us know. So now we will move to our pre-registered speakers. There are a couple of attendees who did want to speak. I will be going through the list of those who are actually participating with us today in hopes that you are attending. So give me one quick second, just bear with me as I go down the list. So I see Ed H, you are on the list, so you will be unmuted. You will see a timer at the end of at the bottom of your screen. We do ask that we limit our questions to 2 minutes. So you are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you, Marielle. Appreciate it, and thank you for holding the meeting. My name is Ed Hermes. I live at Montecito and 3rd Avenue, right here along the project line. I am the vice president of the Carnation Neighborhood Association. We've been sending petitions and letters and support from the neighborhood for years now, asking for these type of changes that you see in option C most closely. Something that we can feel safe in our neighborhood for our kids and our families to actually ride and use 3rd Avenue. Right now, 3rd Avenue is a mess. It's dangerous. Our families don't feel safe being on it, walking or biking along it. Option C is the closest thing that gets us to a better place. And you know, that's something that I think the community supports in option C. My question is related to that intersection on Indian School and 3rd Avenue. Right now, it is a mess and very dangerous to cross in Indian School Road, and especially about 400 feet north of Indian School Road, it's not connected currently. The time of day type restrictions that are proposed in option A I think it's a terrible idea. But my question is, what is going to happen, especially if option C is selected, which seems like has the most support? How can we make that transition safer across Indian School Road so that families feel safe actually crossing that road to go to, for example, commute to downtown? Thank you so much for the time today.
I can answer that question. So one of the things is, as we're doing this, we will be looking at the signal for Indian School and 3rd Avenue to kind of optimize is what it says. So anytime you're making minor changes such as this, whatever happens, we will go through that signal and optimize the timing and make sure that it fits. Option C does provide a bike lane that will be continuous up to the intersection, whereas today that doesn't exist as well. I believe option B also does that. So yes, that will see some improvement as part of this project as well.
One thing I'd probably add to that, Carl, great job on answering that, is Ed, if there's some suggestions you'd like to see that would help, that better meet your expectations, we'd love to hear as part of the survey process as well.
Thanks, Kenny. We will be calling on Eric T. I see you are online. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hi. My name is Eric Teddams. I live on 2nd Avenue between Glen Rosa and Monte Rosa. And I commonly bike the 3rd Avenue, and I just want to voice my my opinion that 3rd Avenue needs a very robust bike lane. It is currently, with all the construction going on, it's really just a war zone. I left my house one Sunday, and at the intersection of 3rd Avenue and Glen Rosa, there was a car upside down. It was a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it was upside down because there was a rollover collision right there on that street. And I thought, man, that's weird on a Sunday. My question is on, let's see, 3rd Avenue north of Campbell. On the east side of 3rd Avenue, there is a landscaped area. It's got rock landscaping and a sidewalk. Will that be option C? Does that encompass or does that take over that area if that is complete? Because the reason I ask is that that area I commonly see in the spring, there's weeds that grow out of it, and no one's really doing a great job of taking care of it. But yeah, I'm in favor of option C, and just want to thank you guys for this survey. It's been really great and efficient.
Thank you. So all of the options A, B, and C are really just looking at the striping changes on the street. So we're not moving the curbs. We're not looking at landscaped areas outside of the street. So this is a curb-to-curb project that we're looking at. But if there are issues with landscaping, please let us know, and that's certainly something we'd want to hear about in the survey.
Thanks, Mariel, for that. And one thing I'll add to that answer as well. Looking at that section, you may or may not be familiar with it. Our city council approved a program called Cool Corridors, where we are doing tree planting in various areas around the city to be able to create shade canopies, tree and shade canopies, where we don't have them today. And I think looking at this stretch that you mentioned north of Campbell might be a good candidate as we look for opportunities to be able to add elements of tree and shade in that area. So that's something I'm going to take back to our team and talk to them a little bit more as we look to identify cool corridor options for this area of the city coming up this fiscal year.
Thank you, team. I see Dave, Brian, Jay is on. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, thank you. My question, well, first I want to say I love option C. I'm passionate about it. My question is, we have support for a traffic diversion on Third Avenue, just south of on the project that's at Central and Indian School. Has that been discussed, or is that too early right now in the project? That how we can work with all the other items going on in the street.
I didn't quite hear. Some of that got garbled as the comment was coming in. I don't know if anybody had any better understanding of the question. I don't know if it just relates to our Coulter Street project. I'm not sure.
I'm going to unmute Dave again, and maybe he can ask. It was garbled up for me as well. Dave, do you mind re-asking your question? You are unmuted again.
Sure. Let's see if I can. Oh, wait.
Yes, you're unmuted now, so let's see if your needs a little bit better.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
A little bit better.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit louder. Okay. We have support for a traffic diversion on 3rd Avenue coming out of the project that's at Central and Indian School. Is this too early to ask about it? How that's going to work? Have you heard about it, and how that's going to affect all the other project that's going on 3rd Avenue right now?
Oh, I think I understand this one. I think this is. I think you're relating it to that planned development on the northeast corner of Central and Indian School. Is that correct?
Correct.
As far as I know, I haven't seen anything recent happening with that project. But as that project moves through the development process and plans permits, I know our team is working on how that project interacts with the neighborhood west of Central Avenue. And so I know we did have some comments when that originally went through the process, but I haven't heard anything recently about that. But it wouldn't necessarily be linked to this project we're talking about tonight, but we would obviously consider the impacts as that project develops, and making sure those improvements are included as well.
Alrighty, Kim J, you are on the list. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, I just put it in the Q&A box. I was just asking about, is there going to be a better barrier than the green? I know because I drive down 3rd. I live on Campbell and between 3rd and 2nd. And so I drive down 3rd all the time. But is there going to be a better barrier than those green things? Because I've seen so many people hit the green things. They're driving in the bike lane. I mean, honestly, you see a lot of random things all the time down 3rd. So is there going to be like is there a better option? Because I was in Flag this last weekend. They kind of have curbs, and really that's really deterrent. I mean, only so much, right, with the crazy people out here. But I was just wondering if there's going to be a better deterrent. Because honestly, I don't like my kids riding the bikes in the neighborhood anyways, just because I live on a really busy street. But I was just wondering about that with the barriers and the division.
Thank you for the question. At this point in time, this section of roadway is actually not planned for anything more than the striped buffer. Obviously, as we continue to see and observe, those might change, but a lot of this area has a fair amount of access, kind of driveway, a couple of alley access and things, to where the vertical aspects would be very sparse and in between. Obviously, we are starting with some different types throughout the city of these vertical deflections to kind of protect the bike lane, and we'll continue to make improvements and modifications as we move forward in the coming years. But at the moment, that is not planned for this project.
Thanks, Carl. And one thing I'll just add on that is you're considering options, option A, B, and C. If you're interested in the vertical protection or potentially adding a vertical protection in the future, it is really necessary for the buffers that we note in option C to be what we move forward with, because that provides space for us to be able to provide vertical protection. So those buffers are necessary to be able to fit in the protection between the vehicle traffic and the bicycle traffic. Something to keep in mind as you're evaluating the options.
Alrighty, and I don't see Cliff V on the line, but I do see Mary L. Thank you for rejoining us. I know you're having audio issues. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question, Mary.
Hi there. I have a couple questions. One is, will there be a crosswalk at 3rd Avenue and Camelback in order to get across the street to the next bike lane north of Camelback? That's my first question. My second question is with the parking on C. I mean, I love option C, but there still allows for on-street parking. And it seems like we could get rid of that on-street parking and still have, and we could have more barrier bike lanes if we got rid of that on-street parking. And then the last thing is, are the speed bumps still going to be on 3rd Avenue? Those are my 3 questions. Thank you.
So I'll try to address all 3, help remind me if I miss some of them. So the first question was regarding crossing Camelback Road. So Camelback Road and 3rd Avenue currently has the traffic signal at that location. The traffic signal would be the method for a bike to cross, same as a pedestrian in that location. I think another question was regarding the parking throughout. Option C does maintain some of that parking in the fact that there are several front-facing homes right in that section, and the road is wide enough. If that is something that specifically, you're like, hey, I live here and I don't need that parking, I'd rather it not be, that would be something in survey and comments that we would love to hear back, or others that are, one way or another very much in favor or not in favor. And I can't recall the second part.
The last question was, will the speed bumps still be there? And yes, absolutely. We are not changing the roadway. It's just we're changing this, or we're proposing striping changes only.
Thanks, team. I don't see Gregory Sheldon J. You were on the list to speak. Just going down the list of those who are with us. I don't see Chris D with us. I do think I see Ron. Ron, I know that you were sending us some communication on the Q&A box. I just responded to you, but you are going to be unmuted. Go ahead and ask your questions. Ron, can you? Oh, hi. Hear you.
Question.
What was that? Can you repeat that?
I was just saying that I did not have a question. I'm just tuning in.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you. It could be there are actually two Ron S's joining us today, so we're gonna try the second Ron S. I think it's this one. Ron, go ahead and ask.
Hi. Yay. I was worried. Hi, my name is Ron Shimatovic. Thank you so much for this. I live on the other side of the canal from all the other speakers. I live at Coolidge Street and 3rd Avenue, just up the road. I'm one of the homeowners. And we have very different issues on this side of the canal. And I would hope that you might consider the two sides of the canal separately, because I don't feel like my voice on that side of the canal is as important as theirs, but our needs on this side of the canal are a little bit different. Now, my original idea was, or my original vote would have been for option C. However, we desperately cannot lose that turning lane at Camelback. We are getting inundated with traffic here at Central and Camelback. There's going to be a new huge building being built on 3rd Avenue and Coolidge, and another one on Hinckley. And what you getting rid of that turn lane on Camelback is going to do to us is force a lot of the traffic further through the neighborhood. We want that traffic on 3rd Avenue. I am a biker. I bike the canal to Tempe Town Lake. I go all over. I absolutely want the bike lanes. However, I also drive. And we desperately need to keep that turn lane at Camelback. And if there's a way to separate both sides of the canal in your decisions, I think both sides would appreciate that. And B, if you can combine aspects of option B and C for our side of the canal, I have several neighbors here with me now, and we're discussing that there are valid things in both those choices. But the one thing about C is we absolutely cannot lose that turning lane at Camelback. My question is it possible to mix B and C, or are we firm in that these are the options, live with them?
We can definitely look at mixing features from both of them. If this is something that you can write in the survey, as a comment, please let us know. We do the options A, B, and C because we want to make it easier for people to kind of understand the options and present something coherent, so it's not, 10 different multiple choice questions. But we're certainly open to looking at making those changes in design and mixing some elements if they make sense. Sometimes there are things that you can't mix from a design perspective, but we're definitely open to hearing that feedback and considering it.
And also, Ron, I appreciate you hosting this little viewing party with your neighbors. We're happy to have them join through you. Just as a reminder, the survey will be open. It is open now. That project website is Phoenix.gov/streets/3rd Ave IC. If you could share that with the neighbors that are with you, we would love to get your feedback in the survey. I don't see Lena M or Henry H with us, but I do see Karen M. You are going to be unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
I'm right across the street from Ron, so 3rd and Campbell, and I agree with him. The bike lane would be wonderful. Parking, I drive up 3rd Avenue every morning, and if there's cars parked on both sides, there's not a lot of room. And so I think that no parking on 3rd would be great. But we do need the turn lane. So I'm very much in sync with Ron on the proposal.
Okay, thank you for sharing your comments. We will go ahead and move over with Paul B. Go ahead and ask your question. You are unmuted.
Are you okay? I think you're referring to us. Can you hear me?
Yes, for Paul.
Yeah, that's my husband. Question. So we live at 3rd Avenue and Highland. It's a 4-way intersection, but it only has stop signs on the north and south. There are not stop signs on the east and west side. So I'm just concerned. There's already an issue. There was just an accident out there not too long ago. Folks don't realize that there aren't stop signs going east and west. So curious about how cyclists would be protected from that conundrum.
Thank you for your comment. That is something that we can evaluate and see if it does meet qualifications for maybe a 4-way stop, or if maybe switching the signs is the better option. So based on the survey aspects and what choices, we will do an evaluation and determine if there is any warranted change for that stop condition there. And that was Highland and 3rd Avenue.
Alrighty, and I see through Ron S that Henry H, who was on our list to speak, is with him. So Ron, do you mind? I'm going to unmute you, and if you can have Henry speak his
Yes,
question.
Henry's here. Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, I'm here. My concern is the narrowness between Grand Canal and Highland. And I don't want to have any parking on that stretch of 3rd Avenue. So we can have the bike lanes as well. I do a lot of riding. I ride probably 20 miles a day. Did you hear that?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
What Henry is trying to say is that he is concerned, he wants the bike lanes, but he's worried about parking from the canal to Highland. The road is much narrower. It's narrower from Highland South than it is Highland North. And he is suggesting no parking on either side of that section, regardless of what happens north of Highland. Again, looking at it a little bit separately.
I think from the project team, we can definitely look at that comment and adjust to that. But I'd suggest you make sure in your response on the survey to add those comments as well.
Yes, and it's super important. When you take the survey, we do give you the option to vote for option A, B, and C. It isn't mandatory, but there is a comment box right after that final question that you can fill in and let us know exactly maybe what your idea would be. So we really encourage that. Also, I see through the Q&A box that Christy D, you were on my list and you are logged in under Michael D. I will go ahead and unmute you. Please let me know if you can ask your question.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
So we're getting a lot of feedback, but I see that you're also logged in a second time, so I'm going to try unmuting the second feature. Okay,
better?
go ahead and ask your question. Yes, this is much better.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. I have actually been reaching out recently. I know Carl has been out of town. I've been reaching out to Mark to try to get an appointment with Carl. My concern is, you know, obviously I'm very excited about this, and 3rd Avenue doesn't have currently sidewalks or besides the bike lane, just usable for the neighborhood, you know, the usability of the area. And so, you know, people with children and like my neighbor said about letting her kids ride there, if anyone wants to take a you know, an attachment behind their bike with their children. And we have a lot of neighbors moving into the neighborhood with younger children, which I'm so excited to see. My concern is, and I hope that we can take into account the new development that is coming into what used to be the Agave Farms, the Glen Rosa area. They're proposing 1,600 units. And so a neighborhood concern that we have talked about is some other traffic mitigation to keep those units coming across and into our neighborhood and across Third Avenue and using the cross traffic from that complex out to 7th Avenue, which would cross over 3rd Avenue and really be extremely dangerous to the bikers that will be using 3rd Avenue. And that's a huge concern for me. So that's just something I want to make sure that we're taking into account for other traffic mitigation issues related to that complex, and taking that in consideration when we're talking about 3rd Avenue and the bike lane.
Thank you for your comments. I think one thing I'd add in this, you made a mention about missing sidewalks along 3rd Avenue in that stretch. And we do have programs within the Street Transportation Department to work with neighborhoods on sidewalk modernization programs where we can actually go in and install sidewalks. A lot of those require a lot of support from the neighboring properties and the neighbors around there because a lot of neighborhoods developed without sidewalks. And when we're looking to be able to put in sidewalks, we're looking for that community support to do that. But there is a process in place to request that. If you're interested in that, we can provide some additional information.
Alrighty, thank you, Kini. Andrew B., I see that you're still on. Also, I just want to thank everyone. I know that we typically we end at around 7. If you want to stick around, you are more than welcome to, and we'll try to get through everyone who wants to ask their question. So Andrew B., you are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hey there. Nice to be on here. Great to hear all of this active neighborhood participation. I also am a big proponent of Plan C. I'm new to the neighborhood. I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you. Yeah, just a couple things. I totally a +1 on not losing the turning lane at Camelback. I think that would be a negative change for congestion. And then just thinking about other improvements in the area, like adding roundabouts to do traffic calming or any other traffic calming, especially on those thoroughfares like Highland and Coolidge that have a lot of multifamily traffic on them. So I'm just curious if there's been any conversation about other traffic calming there on those major thoroughfares and south of the canal, on Campbell and streets like that.
Thank you for your comment. We have not heard any specific relating to traffic calming in the general area at this point in time, specifically with this project. The city does have a traffic calming program that does more speed hump and speed cushions throughout an area. You can find more information on our website that's at Phoenix.gov/speed humps. And that information does spell out, it's very much a neighborhood driven process. It does require neighbors to kind of talk to each other and some petitioning aspects to be able to do and work through that program. But we do have that program for anything. This project specifically is not addressing any traffic calming, just the bike lanes itself.
Thanks, Carl. And if you can check your chat box, I have provided the links for the sidewalk modernization program as well as the traffic calming website where you will find information about speed cushions and speed humps. That's Phoenix.gov/streets/traffic calming, and then the other link for the modernization program is in the chat box. We are almost done with our request to speak. Jeremy, I see you're still with us. Jeremy T., you are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so I want to first say that I agree with Ron in this group that there are different requirements and needs for Pearson Place versus Carnation, north and south of the canal. So I think that's a really good idea to separate those out as much as possible. My question was about a potential fourth option that's not been asked yet, which is expanding this to say that 3rd Avenue, and I know the development was brought up, but there's an additional 6 or 7 developments, I think, that are happening along Central and right here at 3rd Avenue that are going to affect the neighborhood. The potential of shutting down 3rd Avenue north of the Glen, Rosa, at least on the Carnation side, and potentially on the Pearson Place side too, I guess, to keep through traffic from going east and west. We get so much collector traffic coming up 3rd Avenue that has to then go east and west to the neighborhood due to the canal. And I think this might alleviate a lot of problems starting into a green belt with a bike path. So there's no traffic. It would be inconvenience for some of the residents, but has that been considered? And I know you have to compartmentalize this a little, so I apologize for expanding it.
Go ahead and answer that one, Jeremy. As part of this project, no, we weren't considering any closures of streets, whether it be 3rd Avenue, other streets. We're working on trying to create a safe and comfortable bicycle facility through 3rd Avenue to be able to improve our Phoenix Sonoran Bikeway corridor. And in general, we understand that the Phoenix core of Phoenix is growing and expanding and getting more diverse development coming through there. We're working our best to be able to mitigate those traffic impacts. When we review those developments, we work with our sister department, the Planning and Development Department, to do that. But in general, we are not working towards solutions where we're cutting off access or restricting access. Actually, we're more in the movement of trying to provide connectivity through our street network. And of course, we want to be able to do whatever we can to be able to mitigate impacts of adjacent development, and we work with developers to do that. It's never a perfect solution, but we do our best to be able to work together with the neighborhood and the developers to be able to mitigate the impacts of their development. But as part of this project, no, we are not considering restricting or closing any roadways.
Alrighty, and we are on our last speaker, Abigail B. Thanks for joining. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi guys. My name's Abigail. I'm 17 years old, and I was excited to hear all these bikers in here. But I was also kind of surprised about their support for the right turn lane, because it's been proven that right turn lanes are harmful to drivers and pedestrian bikers as a whole. There's lots of statistics on it, so you could just look it up. There's a whole bunch of studies. Anyway, I ride my bike to and from school, the grocery store, and volunteering. Many of my friends said that they would ride their bikes to school, but it's terrifying to ride almost everywhere in Phoenix. And I never feel safe riding my bike in the streets, but I always want to do what I can to combat climate change because that's important to me. This is a step in the right direction, and option C is the way to go, but I feel like you could also go further with the boundaries. I heard several other people talk about that, because me and my dad have been hit. I've been hit on my way to school because there was no buffer, like a solid boundary. So, and my dad was also hit when he was in one of those painted bike lanes. So we're super supportive of adding that extra step and having boundaries. But yeah, that was it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for joining us, Abigail. We appreciate your enthusiasm at such a young age. That's wonderful. Definitely sorry to hear about your incident to you and to your dad. I'll pass it along so that the project team can tackle one of your questions. Was there something that we needed to address?
No, that was it. Sorry, it was more like a comment, but I just wanted to be heard, because that's what these things are for.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And just as a reminder, the survey does have the comment section, so does our chat box, but obviously this meeting is recorded and it will be posted on our project website. So your comment does go into all of our accounts. Just moving on real quickly to some of the pre-registered questions that we did receive. We received a lot of questions from different individuals expressing concerns for option C. To the project team, I'll read these off so that maybe you can answer that. Will the bicycle buffer area have the plastic bumper post north of the Grand Canal? So that's one question for option C. Another question for option C is it possible to blend the right turn lane at Camelback into a combined vehicle and bike lane? It would keep right turn traffic out of the congested left turn and straight ahead lane for option C. And alrighty, so those are our option C questions. Anything that can be addressed with that?
So we have already addressed that. Right now, we're not looking at adding vertical delineators on option C, but if there's interest in it, it's something we can look at. But there is an important caveat that there are a lot of driveways along 3rd Avenue, and so we wouldn't be able to place the vertical delineators in a very regular pattern. So it's something we'd have to look closely at if it were to be a possibility. But right now, it's not something we're looking at.
Also, another option C question is that parking lane on the east or west side of the street? If on the west, why? And this is for option C. Is there any clarification we can add?
For option B, the parking is on the west side, and for option C, the parking, talking about north of Grand Canal, the parking is on the west side. For option C, south of Grand Canal, the only parking that is on the whole project is on the west side. But again, if there's interest, if the community would like to see option C but have the parking on the east side, that's something we'd love to hear in the survey.
Alrighty, and some of the other questions we received are about resident parking. What is your plan to accommodate for the current residents who rely on that parking? Also, additionally, would residents be able to park on the streets? Will this cause more traffic on 3rd Ave, cars and bikes? Will this help in bicycles riding in a single file? Will this help with bicycles stopping at stop signs? These are questions revolved around residents having access to parking.
I'll try to take that one. As far as this project goes, again, we're presenting 3 different options here. One that keeps all the parking as is today, one that does limit the parking more so to be able to fit bike lanes the entire way. Where that parking would get removed, there would be added signs placed in there to not allow the parking in those locations. And then same with option C, is there's very little parking that would remain. And that parking would be removed. As far as, is there anything where the city goes out and creates extra parking in some other place for that displaced parking? No, that's not the case. Our roads are public roads, and they are designated as such for biking and parking and riding and driving and whatnot. And we do have locations where we need to go in and make restrictions in certain places and things. And so hopefully that addresses the questions there, Vivian.
Thank you for that, Carl. Some of the other questions we received are common questions that we oftentimes get, which is who is actually going to enforce the no parking during daytime, or who is going to enforce no parking in the bike lanes? Can we provide an answer for that?
So any enforcement for parking items is through the police department, and the police non-emergency line is probably the best aspect to be able to get access to the police for that. And it is up to police and their enforcement to be able to go out and find and make that happen. Police will be aware when we do make these changes and striping changes, but most of the time what happens is it is neighbors, residents close by, or people that observe that, and they end up contacting the police, and from there police go and observe and cite citations due to the parking.
And if you check your chat box, I went ahead and included the Phoenix PD non-emergency numbers where you can call to submit speeding or other traffic issues. So go ahead and give those numbers a call. And one other grouping that we received from our pre-registered questions is actually pretty interesting. Individuals wanting to know if the pedestrian bridge across the canal could ever be considered to become a vehicle bridge.
I'll just weigh in. That is not being considered. We've not looked at it as being a necessity for traffic flow for vehicle traffic. Our concern here, obviously with this project and what we're proposing here, is to be able to provide safer and more comfortable bicycle and pedestrian access through this corridor, including the existing bridge there. So yeah, we have no plans for any vehicle bridge over the Grand Canal there.
Alrighty, thank you, Kimi. And just shuffling through some of the Q&A questions that we've received, the group has taken a look at them. Some people are just wondering, how wide are the current lanes for cars in this area, and what would they be reduced to if they were to be protected?
The current lanes vary somewhat throughout this project. Majority of them are probably somewhere between around 12 feet. There are some that are narrower in sections. As we go through with this project, option C and B does reduce the through travel lanes to 10 feet throughout the project.
Alrighty, thank you, Carl. Another person asking, have there been any conversations about other improvements to the street, like roundabouts at key intersections or landscape improvements? For just as a quick interjection, when you do take that survey, go ahead and leave those comments there so that we can follow up on those types of requests. And also,
and just
sorry, go ahead, Miriam.
I was going to say just to confirm, right now we're really looking at striping changes to the street. That's this project's just looking at the existing curbs and changes to striping. There's not anything in the scope beyond that.
And also some of the other questions that we have received in the Q&A ask about better protection for cyclists. There were several questions asking how we can ensure that cyclists are protected. And just as a reminder, option B would be the protected bike lanes. Option C would be for buffered bike lanes. I believe we've discussed this a couple of times throughout the meeting, so just go ahead and make sure that when you do take the survey, you add in your comments as well. Still scrolling through the Q&A box, reading some of the questions. I know there were several other people who had asked about possibly separating north of the canal from south of the canal. Please go ahead and again take that survey and let us know. We are working through things and we welcome new ideas as well. Project team, I know that you can see the Q&A box. Do you see anything that we have not talked about that we need to be mentioning? I know someone else asked if there could be a crosswalk for bikes on 3rd Ave and Camelback.
As far as specifically 3rd Ave and Camelback, there is a traffic signal there at 3rd Ave and Camelback, and that signal provides a crosswalk for bikes and for pedestrians at that intersection.
Alrighty, and I think we've actually reached our very last question, which is a great question by Bill. If we polled here, do we have to do the survey too? We absolutely encourage you and those in your community to take the survey. We do save the poll results from this actual meeting, and we take that into consideration, but the survey is much more extensive, and it gives you a really great place to give us more information about who you are, how you use the street, and also what you envision for the street. Like I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to vote for option A, B, or C. You have the option to provide a lot of great detail as to what you're envisioning would be great for this community, but we do encourage you to take the survey. And I think that'll be the conclusion for our Q&A session. We appreciate everyone's time. I know we've ran a little bit late, but we do want to thank you for participating in tonight's live virtual public meeting. Your input on this project is vital for us to actually move forward in the right direction for your community. So we appreciate everyone's attendance. Don't forget that you can visit the project webpage and complete the survey by August 7th at 11:45 p.m. That link is Phoenix.gov/streets/3rd Ave IC. Contact the project manager with any questions or comments. That email is bike@phoenix.gov. Thank you again for joining us and have a great evening.